14 teams from throughout New Zealand are here in the Wairarapa to contest the 5 stages, nearly 500 kilometres of the 2022 edition of the Trust House New Zealand Cycle Classic. Included in the teams this year is the former winner in 2011 and Tour de France rider George Bennett. He's also joined by World Tour rider Shane Archibald and the likes of junior world representatives, Olympians and Commonwealth Game champions, all here to win the coveted yellow jersey. Riders faced 158 kilometres on day 2 of the tour, the longest stage in this year's tour. And quite surprisingly, a large group was allowed to escape some 10k into the stage, and it had a lot of the big hitters, including World Tour rider George Bennett. The 2011 champion went away with 13 other riders that included the likes of Mark Stewart, a former Commonwealth Games champion, and Bailey O'Donnell, a young man from Canterbury who's been riding exceptionally well over the past couple of years. These riders started to open up a decent gap on the main field, and at one point had over 15 minutes on the main peloton. As this lead group entered into Masterton for the uphill finish, there was attacks aplenty, and it was the isolated Mark Stewart that had to do a lot of the chasing as being the virtual leader on the road. But Keegan Hornblow of Couplands was the man that would take the victory for the day and secure a number of jerseys. But it was the prominent jersey of the yellow, the Trust House yellow jersey, going on to the Scotsman for the first time in his career, while Keegan Hornblow moves into second with the under 23. So joining me here today is Raphael, who's one of the riders for the Trust House team, all the way from France, but been based in New Zealand, done a bit of racing over the last few months here.
Yes, I have. I've been in New Zealand for the last year, actually. So I enjoy the racing. A few months ago, that was Tour of Southland. Great race. And that's it now, the Cycle Classic here.
And as we know, riders come from all sorts of interesting backgrounds, but yours particularly been an international representative for France for kickboxing.
Yes, 10 years ago now, a bit, 10, 12 years ago, representing France, World Championship, European Championship, for 4 years as a professional, and that was it.
So how do we go from representing your country at kickboxing to being here in the Wairarapa riding on a bike?
I'm not too sure, I guess life, but I discovered cycling a bit late, in the age, but quickly fell in love with the sport, and that's it,
And yesterday, of course, a big break that got away fairly early there. It's, I guess back in the peloton, things were pretty quiet.
Yeah, a bit of a surprising day. Like after, I think we raced for 20k, not even, and that was it. The day was done, and in the bunch, I was really, really relaxing, boring day with a bit of rain on the top of it. Hopefully, today will be more exciting. A bit of wind and maybe some breakaways.
So joining me here is Ryan Christensen, part of the team, of course, that's got the yellow jersey, the Bolton Equities at Black Spoke Pro Cycling. Well, Ryan, it's been a big couple of days for the team.
Yeah, obviously me being a part of the team for the first time coming on this year, it's great to get our first win, and obviously yesterday Mark carrying us through the day and obviously finishing off at the end, so it's good that we still got the jersey, and obviously big few days to go ahead of us.
And I guess for the uninitiated, there's a lot of team talk that goes on each evening deciding on what's going to happen the following day.
Yeah, we do ours in the morning, just because we don't have to stress about it and get a good night's sleep, but there's obviously a lot of work goes into it behind the scenes. Will and Scott got to obviously send up the track and identify all the points in the race that we need to watch, and go from there.
And the flags are starting to blow a little bit behind you there, so it's starting to pick up. It could be a bit breezy for the start of the stage. Yeah,
about 15 k's in, we turn right into a bit of a crosswind, bit open there, so it's a point to watch, a point of interest. and then obviously on the circuits, coming into finish lines, a big crosswind there. So yeah, it's breezy, cold. Obviously heading down south, you get those kind of weathers. So yeah, it'll be good.
I wish you all the best for the day.
Cheers, thanks very much.
Stage 3 of the New Zealand Cycle Classic will see the riders head south of Masterton along the Avenue of Oats past the World War I Memorial, then on to Gladstone, eventually making their way to the Fisher monoplane sculpture where they'll be contesting a King of the Mountains on Millers Road at 36 kilometres, before eventually making their way towards the township of Martinborough, well known for the winery district. 7k circuit around 9 times for these riders here, where they'll compete for some of the sprint ace points, eventually finishing in Cambridge Road for the 127k stage. You see now the riders are lining on up here outside the hotel where they've been based throughout the week in Masterton here. Great opportunity for the riders to mix in officials here as they start off at 10 o'clock in the morning and head in the neutral section through the main street here of Masterton. A few tired riders after a big stage yesterday here, and of course a lot of them having to go back to the drawing board to see what they can take from this tour if you missed out on the major break of the day yesterday. Today, of course, a lot of talk about the potential of the sprinters, and the man there in the polka dot jersey, Lawrence Pithy, may be in the KOM, but we know he's also been in the mix for a lot of the sprints as well, so he'll be a man today that's been earmarked as a potential winner of the stage. As the vehicles start to drop the flag at the 0 mark and underway for the 127 kilometres for these riders. Some tight roads for these riders to contest here for the first 63 odd kilometres before they make their way around the outskirts of Martinborough here. But for initially here, they're going to have to deal with these tight roads as well as the winds. As you can see, the trees in the background are blowing a fair bit. And for some of these riders early on in the stage to try and get off the front is a bit of a challenging event to do indeed because of the headwind in which they're having to contest. But we can make out the colours of a number of teams, including, there we go, Base Solutions there, the orange and blue colours. Now, they were one of the teams yesterday that missed out on that opportunity in the break, so no doubt trying to ensure that they can get themselves to the forefront here today and potentially pick themselves up a stage victory. The riders now starting to spread a bit. As you can see, the trees bending over there in the winds as they've turned in towards the Gladstone area here, up past the primary school and heading towards the first, or the only, in fact, King of the Mountains opportunity here today in this 127 kilometres. So riders will be trying to get themselves off, pick up potentially some points, but ultimately look for that tailwind as they head down towards Martinborough. And you can see individuals trying to do exactly that, but the field seems quite content, allowing 1 or 2 riders to try and do it. Looks like the colours there potentially of Couplands. Of course, had a fantastic day yesterday on the roads here at the New Zealand Cycle Classic with Keegan Hornblow taking a number of the jerseys. Of course, today they're having to be shared around a wee bit. He can't wear all of those ones with the under 23. He's got the sprint ace, and of course he got the most combative rider of the day as well. And it looks like they've reeled back in riders here now, and now just 2 or 3 deciding to have a bit of a nudge off the front as we line ourselves up for their first of the King of the Mountains, approaching around 36 kilometres here on Millers Road to try and take it out. And it looks like very prominent towards the front of the race is that St George Continental Cycling team. And it looks like Hamish Keast of Southland is the man that's got himself on the front to try and drive that there. Now, of course, they've got the likes of Nick Kirkazoo in their team, who is a very good sprinter. He come close to winning the stage a few years ago up against Campbell Stewart, where it came to a photo finish. So they'll be making sure that they try and keep things tight together. Meanwhile, though, there is that one individual still trying to keep himself off the front here. We're just trying to pick up exactly who that potentially might be as they allow him to get quite a decent sort of a gap. But knowing full well, as we said, into a headwind out here, it's a bit of a tough mission to try and do so. As we get closer towards the hill climb, a rider's now starting to sort themselves out into some sort of order. So no doubt we'll see the likes of Case Diverston, who's been in amongst the King of the Mountains. Potentially Ollie Jones will be another man who's also picked up points. And of course Pithy himself, who was in that polka dot jersey as we saw ourselves leaving out of Masterton only a few moments ago. as they start heading up the climb. As we said, the only official hill climb of the day, as it looks like Bailey O'Donnell himself, who is going off the front to have a wee nudge, Oxford Edge Cycling Team, young man from Canterbury, to see if he can pick himself up some points. But he's tried to take the hill nice and early, but they're very aware of it, as you see now the top contenders for this KOM try and get themselves into the mix. And it's a tight one there between Diveston and Pithy. And I think Pithy potentially might have picked himself up the points. There's 3 riders that will secure points for that particular hill climb. That'll be added on to what they've achieved yesterday and determine who will be into the KOM at the end of the day. We're sponsored by the Mega team here, and that Mitre Mega in Masterton, great supporters of the race throughout the week, and they have been for a number of years. Aaron Slight and the team do a great job in supporting this international tour, this UCI tour, the only one of its kind in the country here, and of course the first one underway for the new year. So riders knowing that they can get noted and that potentially pick up some good contracts going forward if they perform well in such an event. As we now see, looks like Paul Odlin sitting in second wheel there, along with one of the riders there from the Mitre 10 Mega Masterton team, and now Base Solutions also getting themselves into the mix. So good to see the Base Solution boys. They've backed it up. They haven't let things get away after yesterday. They've decided we're going to get out there in front. And of course, having somebody like Sir Paul Odlin with you, a former Oceania Time Trial champion going off the front, that's a pretty good company to sort of have, as we can now see the pressure starting to go on as they've done the hill climbs here. They are now heading very close towards the township of Martinborough as they fly down these narrow roads and start approaching the circuit here, where they're going to go 9 times through. Once they go through the township the first time, there'll be 9 laps of the 7K circuit. So look out for a number of riders to try and sneak themselves off the front, and the big sprinters, being well looked after by their teams, will be ensuring that they make sure that this keeps nice and tight as we make our way up for the first time the finishing straight here. And the sprint ace goes on through in the green jersey. Looks like Keegan Hornblow just making sure to keep himself available towards the front of the field and trying to pick himself up a few points, but also, more importantly, picking himself up a few seconds and time bonuses as well. He was only 16 seconds adrift of the overall lead at the beginning of this stage here. So Mark Stewart will be keeping a close eye on him, the man in the yellow, of course, the man riding for the Bolton Equities Black Spoke Pro Cycling, and seeing him in the peloton there. He's well surrounded by his teammates, as we see here in a great shot of them. This is teamwork at its best here on the circuit. As another attack goes off the front here through the township of Martinborough there, through the square. An interesting square indeed. Of course, the founder of the township and actually named a number of the streets after places he had visited over the years, including the likes of Venice and Dublin. So it's designed like the Union Jack, and that's where they'll be finishing. And that's over the 9 laps of this particular circuit, up the finish there of Cambridge Streets and that Cambridge Road there. It will make life very interesting because it's a tight finish, 800 odd metres from the top corner. And at each of these laps, no doubt, the sprinters will just be eyeing it up, measuring their distance there, deciding on how this is going to look for them. They've got a few sprints available for the sprint ace. So if you like, they get a bit of an entree, a bit of a test of the legs to see what the sprint could be like. But in the meantime, they're going to have to capture these 3 guys who have decided to go off the front, and they're starting to open up a decent gap. 1:48 is now the time split between these 3 riders that have gone off the front here, and it looks like number 24 in the dark colours, Mike Phillips, a former New Zealand Ironman. He's running for the New Zealand team here. He's got James Cranage of the Mitre 10 team joining him, and a former international kickboxing representative from France. That's Raphael Amaru from the Trust House team. So great backgrounds with these riders, and fantastic to see them available here in this particular tour. And Amaru, I've had the pleasure of seeing him in the Tour of Southland and back in November there, so he's starting to build up a bit of a experience when it comes to tour racing. He's the tallest of the 3 figures here that we see, number 42 into the middle. Meanwhile, it's the man from Mitre 10, Cranage, that's on the back there. They'll team up, they'll forget about the colours that they're wearing here and want to be a unified effort and try and keep a gap. And you can see here from the great drone shots that they've got a reasonable gap on the field here, who are now starting to decide it's time to start to try and reel these guys in. Indication of that, we're in single file. Before we saw them all bunched up, quite relaxed, but now things are starting to stretch out a bit over the 7K circuit here. And they've gone with still about 4 laps or so to go. So it's quite a long way out still for these 3. But they're going to chance their arm. They know they don't have much of an opportunity if it's going to come down to a bunch kick. They've decided that we'll just try and sneak off. This is what happened last year in the stage. It typically is a bunch kick, but they have seen what's happened last year, and for a few of these riders, they would have actually investigated that, looked at the video footage from previous tours, and for a few of the riders, of course, they've had that opportunity to ride the circuit in the past, so they'll know exactly where the wind's coming from, the angles of the road, as we see Hamish Keese once again, the workhorse on the front, along with his teammates from St. George Continental Cycling Team. As we said, Kirkazoo would be one of the favourites coming into this one here. You've got the likes of Mitchell Fitzsimmons from Bolton Equities. He's another good sprinter. Pithy would certainly be a man. He seems to be loving it and getting involved in absolutely everything in here. Sam Ritchie would be another man I'd throw into the mix. I know he was away in the break yesterday and with the legs today. We're probably trying to save those a bit, knowing the hills are coming tomorrow. But we know he's got a good sprint on him as well. And of course, you've got George Jackson, and that who's vying for that Sprint Ace jersey as well. So there's a number of potential contenders. And let's not forget, of course, Shane Archbold, the man that leads out some of the top sprinters in the world on the world stage here. He's in the mix here as well. Now, it'll be interesting. It'll be either, I would suggest, himself or Pithy that'll be going for it when it comes to the New Zealand team. And that knowing full well that tomorrow they'll be in full action to try and support their man George Bennett when it comes to the hills. So our three unfortunate, looks like their day is over. They've had their time in the limelight, and it looks like they're going to be reeled in here by the chasing peloton. Some 76 odd riders here after 2 defections this morning, and that from injuries sustained from crashes yesterday. We hope those riders are starting to recover well as we make our way down into Martinborough here with only a few laps to go. Still an opportunity for the rider to try and sneak on off and ensure that, hoping, and that's that the teams with the sprinters will be looking at each other and let them go. As we see one of the sprints, one of the second to last sprints here on the stage, for the Sprint Ace, that is the Wiz Wireless Sprint Ace jersey that's available, the green jersey, and it looks like Nick Kirkazoo has picked himself up the maximum points there. The man riding for the St. George Continental team, as we said, they've been pretty proactive towards the front. So a good test of the legs there for Kirkazoo. He picks up not only points for the Sprint Ace, but he's also now got to test out the legs to see what's it like down that straight. Can I get this right here and try and take myself a win? But there's a man here deciding that he does not want that to happen. And of course, that is the man we've already seen, and I would suggest will become the most aggressive rider of the day, and that is Paul Odland, 112, riding for the Couplands Bakeries Booth Groups team. Of course, they're on a high after yesterday's fantastic efforts by Keegan Hornblow. And of course, this man here, Paul Odland, riders throughout New Zealand know him well. Of course, as I said before, a former time trial champion both at New Zealand level, Oceania level. He'll be more than happy. He doesn't mind if there's a whole entire field chasing him down. He'll just settle down into time trial mode. Can he hold them off? It's not looking so great there with only just over a lap to go. They're not too far behind as the sprinters start to lick their lips. They want to take this particular stage out. Can they do so? We're about to find out as they make their way around on the final stretch here. Here they come down the straight now. 200 metres to go, and there's a lot of leading out going. Shane Archibald, he flies over to the left-hand side. Lets Pithy go, but Kirkazoo starts to move through in the maroon colours. He takes over the lead there, and he's going to take himself out. His first ever UCI victory here. A fantastic effort from the man from the New Zealand Endurance Squad. Takes his first victory in the stage of the tour this year from Lawrence Pithy, and the birthday boy, Zach Patterson from Base Solutions, secures third place across the line.
Well, Nick, a pretty special win for you today.
Yeah, that's real special. Finally cracked the UCI win, so can't ask for much more. And the team, they're just unreal today, and just 100% dedication to me, so really can't thank the boys enough.
Can you tell us a little bit about how it all transpired over those last few laps?
Yeah, that break went away, and I saw Mike Phillips and Raphael was up there, and yeah, we knew it was dangerous, so the boys got on the front row pretty hard. Pretty hard, so we knew they were the danger men and we didn't want that to stick, and yeah, we wanted a bunch kick.
And it's an ideal stage for you. I guess you come close a few years ago to get this win today.
Yeah, come real close a couple of years ago, so it's always been on the back of my mind, and they took that stage out, so this was the next best suited stage to me, and yeah, it was wicked.
I guess a great reward for the team after yesterday with that bunch getting away.
Yeah, it was an easy day for me, but team, we still had guys up the road that could have won, but didn't pan out, so today's just awesome for the guys.
And I guess your role changes for tomorrow.
Yeah, domestique tomorrow. I might go get some bottles and get on the front and drop off our boys. We've got 2 guys sitting on GC pretty good, so yeah, focus goes into to them for the rest of the tour.
And always good to see a Southlander up front.
Always good to see a Southlander up front. Nice cold conditions today, so that must have helped.
Well, Mark, can you tell us how it sort of went for you guys out on the road today?
Yeah, I think we definitely came into today trying to race it from the front and kind of almost show our authority and that we were willing to kind of protect the jersey, I guess. So we were kind of expecting everything and anything, and we were ready for it. So it ended up being quite an aggressive day. A lot of teams wanted to get in the break, which meant nothing really went till we got to the circuits, which actually ended up suiting us a bit because we didn't have to chase breaks down. It was just quite a nice flow to the race.
And I guess with those tight roads and those winds out there today, you had to be a lot of concentration.
Yeah, that was probably the major factor that added to how everybody raced it. Was you could tell people were quite nervous. So when you've got guys like Shane Archibald in there, and they're wily old dogs, and they'll throw everything in the book at you. So.
And speaking of throwing everything at you, of course, tomorrow, no doubt you'll expect that going into the hills.
Yeah, I'm actually quite excited to see just how other teams are going to race it. I'm excited to have a chat with our guys, see how we're going to race it. But yeah, I think it's going to be everything left out on the road. That's the only guarantee.
And it's a new climb this year that they're going to be finishing on. They're going over it a few times. Have you or the team been over it?
No, I'm not actually. We rode down it last year, I believe, in the circuit. And I think we went like 100k an hour down the hill. So any hill you go 100k an hour down, it's going to be pretty slow and savage on the way back up.
And it must have been quite special this morning, putting on the yellow jersey.
Yeah, it's my first one. So yeah, I'm a bit older now, so I can appreciate these little moments and trying to slow down and take it in.